Paulie, I feel like, you know, I see you at all of these Barclays Center events and at press conferences and all this stuff, and I wanted to take the time to get to know you outside of that. And so here we are in Brooklyn, but specifically a neighborhood that's close and dear to your heart. So tell the audience where we are.
Yeah, well, we're basically in Bensonhurst here, which is where I grew up a lot of my young years. Kind of a place where you can come here and kind of chill, especially on a nice day like today, and just gather your thoughts. You know, I've seen this view here since I'm a little kid, and you know, it never gets old. So
talk to me a little bit about Paulie the Little Kid. Like, what were you like when you were young?
Sometimes you'd catch me and I wouldn't want to talk, and I'd be around, and I'd be the person that was real shy, you know, and then sometimes if I would get comfortable, I'd be the outgoing one, and you know, you have to calm me down or else I'd get myself in trouble, you know, so it's kind of like that even now in a way, you know, just as an adult version, I guess, or if I like
kind
to think so.
Kind of the adult, yeah.
I'd like to think so.
You know, anything specific in your life kind of caused you to be this type of person?
Be shy and outgoing at the same time? Yeah, I'm sure we're all created by the effects of our past, you know, some good, some bad. I can remember being a kid, being here, and my family obviously is struggling, but for me, I was happy just to be hanging out with my family and my friends, and, you know, I don't know, there was times like I had animal crackers for dinner, you know, and I liked animal crackers, so I didn't care, you know, I didn't say, hey, I don't want these, I wanted them, you know, like with the warm milk, animal crackers and stuff, you know, or, it was cool, you know, so I'm not like, you know, I'm not one of these people that's gonna say, oh man, you know what, that shaped me because I had to overcome that. Yeah, what I had to overcome shaped me. It did. You know, I don't come from an always positive background, but I try to remember the negative and the positive because I think you have to be shaped by both. Was
it hard for you to find an identity? Did you know whether you were American or Italian, or what did you identify with?
Identified with people like me, obviously, because it's the easiest thing to do. You know, like you obviously identify with people that speak your language and people that kind of come from the same place as you and whatnot, you know, especially at first where I didn't speak English, you know, so, you know, the kids that spoke English and Italian would help me, you know, translate with the schoolwork and stuff. Yeah, you know, like I remember my first day of school, the teacher put me next to a kid that I'm friends with to this day, you know, and he spoke Italian and English, and I remember his name's Anthony, he's my friend to this day, and you know, he basically had to explain to me what she was writing on the chalkboard and, like, you know, basically, you know, slow it down, and, you know, she let him talk to me during while she was talking because she understood, you know, like otherwise you can't talk during class, but it was cool, and like little by little you start picking it up because TV's in English. Everybody's speaking English at that point, you know. So even now, English is my first language, you know. But I still kept the Italian. But you know, as a kid, you pick up faster. You know, you pick up faster. I remember I was getting very good grades in spelling. I remember I got to a school final in a spelling bee by the time I was in 3rd grade. You know what I mean? So.
And you won?
No, I didn't win. But I got to the finals.
What was the word that stumped you?
3rd grade? It's embarrassing.
What was it?
Sneeze. Yeah, can you imagine?
How did you?
I spelled it S-N-E-E-S-E instead of E-E-Z-E. Yeah, because I was so mad because a lot of the other words, I mean, it wasn't like these national killer spelling bees with like 25 letters to a word, you know what I mean? But it was still the school elementary final, you know? Like, I had to win my class, and I had to win, you know, my grade, so to speak, and then, you know, like, you know, I had to get to the finals. It was like I thought I could get it, man. And a lot of the words that other kids had messed up on, like I knew them, and I was like sitting on the out seats. You know, when you get out, you had to sit like on these seats. And I was like, man, I know that word. Oh man, I know. Why couldn't I get that word? You know, and like people messing up on words that I could spell afterwards, that I was so mad. You know, but that's just competitive of me. You know. Did
you get in trouble as a kid?
A little bit. I don't think I was ever a person that was meant to be a bad person or supposed to do bad. I just kind of end up in the wrong situations at times, and you know, kind of get desperate at times, and you know, you kind of get lost in the mix sometimes. You know, I look back on it, and I'm not gonna tell. I tell people, I'm like, I'm not gonna tell you I was a gangster or anything. I mean, I got into my share of fights. You know, we got into some trouble.
So would you say that boxing was kind of the tool that veered you in the right path, or returned you to the right path?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I think it kind of gave me guidance and direction, because now I was scared to get the gym taken away from me, for example, you know, because...
Why? Because you loved going to the gym?
I like boxing. I mean, once I started, I was like, wow, I love this. This is great. I want to be here every day. I want to train every day.
But why? Because you thought you could win, or because
the competitive juices, and also, you know, the combat, testing myself against another person, you know. I don't know. It just all appealed to me, you know. Like, it made me feel like a man, but I wasn't breaking any rules, you know what I mean? As opposed to, oh, you don't have to be so tough. You know, I've never been a tall guy. Maybe I had Napoleon syndrome, you know? So, and now I could just do it in the ring and boxing, and, you know, I don't have to, like, look elsewhere to try to feel that manliness, you know? So, no, I mean, granted, I was 16, but
Yeah.
You know, God only knows what I was thinking, all those thoughts. But I think whatever it was, it appealed to me.
You know, once you found boxing, once you found something that kind of re-inspired you to be your original self, when did you finally figure out that you can actually make a career out of this?
Well, as I was doing it little by little, I wasn't totally changing right away, but little by little I was kind of getting away from all that stuff. You know, I remember like a few times during my amateur boxing career, my grandparents just threw me out of the house. They were like, yo, you're done, get out of here, you know what I mean? And because I was still like, go back to like doing some stuff with my friends, and then, you know, but then, you know, I didn't want to lose boxing, you know? And I said to myself, I was like, I won't have to rely on anybody to you know, then I can just be myself if I can just, you know, make something of myself in this, and I'm good enough to do it. I started realizing I was good enough to do it. I was sparring with pros and world champions in the gyms, and, you know, within a couple of years that I started boxing, you know, and I'm not going to say I was getting the better of them, but I was learning a lot, and I was giving them some good work, and, you know, and little by little I was winning more amateur tournaments and doing things with myself, and, you know, scouts and managers would start coming up to me and, you know, like wanting to talk and stuff. And I started realizing, like, you know, this could actually be something real, and it's fun, and I can even be famous and all this stuff. And who knew that, you know? And
yeah, because at the end of the day, too, it's a really tricky situation, especially with fame, because all of a sudden the things that people are saying to you, it's very seductive, but it's not true.
It's not true, and it's not true. And, you know, you also have this image in your mind where, you know, everyone does, where you're on TV and you're gonna make money, and you're doing this and you're gonna make money. Like, I remember I turned pro and I got a little signing bonus, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I never had money in my life. I was like, this is cool. It wasn't like money. Like, looking back now, it wasn't money, but to me it was money, you know. And I'm like, oh, this is cool, and I'm just gonna keep fighting and making more money so I can spend this how I want, you know. And so I just started spending and spending and spending. Started breaking my hands every second early in my career, and before I knew it, I was constantly on the shelf and money was running out. And it was such a painful surgery, that 9-hour reconstructive surgery. And I never was not in pain during the whole rehabilitation and the training. I still wasn't using it. I still would doubt my right hand. And I came back the first fight and I broke it again. And I was like, wow, this is over. I'm like, are people kidding me? But by that point I had about 20 fights and I was undefeated. So people were just like, just cash him out. I mean, people were telling my team, like, just cash out, get one big fight. You know, you can't win it because you're only one-handed, but get one big fight, make some money, and cash out. I was like, yeah, but a cash out fight doesn't last you. Like, that's just a little bit of money. What is that going to take you? A few months or a year, and then you're done?
Yeah.
I was like, I can't have that. But it started healing, and ever since then, you know, I got one more fight. I got the Miguel Cotto fight, which I lost, but ever since the Miguel Cotto fight, I've been making good money. So it was like, it's been 7 years now, and so I never had to look back again, you know. Definitely, I didn't achieve what I wanted to, but at the same time, I think, I'm not going to say I'm content, because when I think about it deep enough, I do get angry about it, because some of it wasn't my fault, you know. But at the same time, it's I'm here, you know, and I'm here, and I'm not in a bad place. And considering I could have been in a very bad place, I'm happy, you know, I'm happy.